Hi, everybody. Joseph here with Bean to Bar World and Chocolate Travels. I'm here with Rosario, who is based in
Hi,
Lisbon, Portugal. Hi, Rosario.
Hi, Joseph.
Nice to meet you. So we're going to learn all about what you do. We're going to talk a little bit about Bean to Bar chocolates. It'll be a lot of fun. So to get things started, let's talk about who are you? Who's Rosario? Where did you grow up?
Hi. So basically, I was born in Porto, in Portugal. I'm the youngest of five. I don't know what you want to know. I grew up in Porto. Then later on, I went to London to study fashion.
Oh, okay, okay.
I worked there in buying, fashion buying.
I saw you had a post the other day where you were wearing a cacao sack as like a shirt.
Yeah.
So that's where the fashion background comes. It looked really good, actually.
Yeah. I already did a jacket, a vest, a
That's
bag,
cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like
I like it.
yeah, you can mix both, like I'm
Okay.
in chocolate, but always like clothes and fashion
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everything.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Very nice. Okay, so you come from a sort of a fashion background, and did you always like chocolate growing up?
Yes, I think always, chocolate was always a part of me somehow, because as a little girl, I didn't like to eat, and being the youngest of five, parents they don't care about you.
You get
And when you
neglect.
say no, no, I don't like this, and they're like, okay, eat whatever.
Okay.
I don't like fish. I don't like broccoli. So obviously, to get my energy, the best thing was chocolate, and I love
Oh, okay.
it. So
Are you
yeah,
still picky with food today? Or now you?
not so much.
Mm,
I love to eat. Nowadays, I eat everything. I love to eat. I love to try new things, new.
mm.
So it's good.
And what kind of chocolate did you enjoy the most when you were growing up?
No, and obviously, like as a child, I loved white chocolate.
Mm,
And it
mm,
was a thing because, like I'm from Portugal, obviously. And I remember because my grandmother, she was a sweet tooth and she always had chocolate in her house and
mm.
she would bake all these amazing chocolate cakes and everything. And I remember she always had this white chocolate from Nestle. I don't know, it was a white chocolate. And I remember because she used to buy it in Spain. And it
Oh,
was
okay.
totally different from the white chocolate in Portugal,
Hmm,
and the Spanish was much better. I have to be honest. I think
hmm.
probably now understanding, I think probably it had more sugar or even the milk was different, but there was a
Right.
difference, you know,
Yeah.
there was a difference.
Okay.
Uh,
And so let's fast forward now. When did you discover bean to bar chocolate? So do you remember what the first bar was and what did you love about it when you first tried
yeah.
it?
I don't know because later on, because I studied and I worked first in London, right? And my office was in Carnaby Street, so it was next to Liberties. And Liberties, they had a small section, but quite good section of chocolate.
Okay.
Um, and there are a few things that I remember trying that at the time I had no idea that they were being to bar,
Mm,
like or or if they were being to bar or whatever. It's like I
mm,
had brands like Willie's,
mm.
Rococo. But the first time that I remember when I started getting more interested in chocolate and I ordered bean to bar chocolate knowing that it was bean to bar, then I remember that there were a few brands that, wow, completely blew me away.
Okay.
And yeah,
And when was that and what brands were they? Do you remember?
so it was more or less when I started basically studying Bin Tumar and writing and reading about it, and I ordered from the UK. because at the time I was living already in Portugal. Uh, I remember like two bars, especially one from Standout and another one from
Hmm.
Cantu.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, wow, this is something, this is different.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now we're
Two
talking.
two really great brands, definitely. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
now we're talking. This is real chocolate.
Okay, so you really just, I guess, were blown away. What did you love about it? What was so nice about the standout bar, the Cantu bar?
I think it was the flavor. Like, and when you looked, and when I looked on the back, and trying to understand and see that there are only two ingredients,
Right,
there were chocolates with only two ingredients, and they were like, wow,
right.
like these flavors, how is this possible,
Hmm,
And
hmm.
obviously after that you get, more interesting and more interested, and you want to know more. So I think, those two bars were like, wow.
Yeah,
And obviously then Feitoria, because then I was looking where to find in Portugal, and I found Feitoria do Cacau.
right.
And obviously,
That was pretty exciting for you, I'm sure. Portuguese
yeah,
maker. Yeah, yeah,
no, obviously, and
yeah.
they're amazing. They have
Wonderful.
this bar, the Nicaragua bar. Actually, it's like a dark milk with cacao nibs.
Mm, mm,
But it's like there are days that it's my Nicaragua mood day.
mm, mm.
And I call them because we are like free for 24 hours, seven in contact. And like today I'm in Nicaragua mood, and I send them a photo of me eating with their chocolate.
Oh, nice. Beautiful. So eventually that led you to your subscription, your business, Cacau Club. So tell us about when and why you decided to create Cacau Club.
No, so basically when I discovered, and it was during COVID, and
Okay.
it was at the same time that I arrived in Portugal, and basically I had a lot of free time, and I always loved chocolate, and chocolate somehow is in my genetics. And I started, trying to get to know more about. I did several courses. I wrote a lot of books.
Mm-hmm.
I still read a lot of books. I still do, as many courses as I can to be informed.
Mm-hmm.
And then in Portugal, there is basically no bean to bar, or there
At the
wasn't
time, yeah, yeah.
at the time. So I thought,
And
it
that
was
was what, 2020, 2021? When was that?
no 21,
Oh, okay.
21. Yeah, 2021. And I thought, maybe, like in fashion, you're always looking for a gap in the market, and to
Mm-hmm.
feel the right product at the right time with the right price.
Right.
So
Right.
you're always looking for something. And then, I found this. I think this is a passion of mine, and it can totally be my work, and it started growing slowly,
Mm-hmm.
and it's still growing. There is still time to, space to grow.
Yeah,
And
yeah, but it sounds like you have a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, right? And I think it shows. And it's amazing too that even within a few years, now you have, quite a few bean to bar makers in Portugal just in such a short time, which
yes, and it's
is
still
really
growing.
incredible. Yeah, yeah. Uh,
There are more appearing.
so what would you say is the purpose of your business, Cacao Club? Why are you doing this? What's the main purpose, other than that you love chocolate?
Exactly. No, I love chocolate, and I want, to show people
Mm,
and to educate people, and to see that there is this amazing product that is so good, so healthy, so different from what you used to eat in the supermarkets,
right.
because people, they don't know. And here in Portugal, you have good food, you have quality food, you have good olive
Quality. Yeah.
oil, you have good wine. Nowadays, the coffee, the specialty coffee, it's growing a lot,
Mhm.
and chocolate is something that it was always in our lives, more in Portugal. It was more like in desserts. You have the cookies, you have the chocolates and everything. But it's something, that I think it needs to grow on. and it's something so good and so good for yourself. Then I think, yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's my purpose
just
here to be
like
the missionaire.
no, that's wonderful. And just like cheeses and Portuguese breads
Exactly.
and things like you can have both really good flavor and good quality and nutritious,
Exactly.
like you said. Chocolate, we always think of chocolate as um, something that's not good for our body.
Yeah,
That's too much sugar and this and that. But when you get into the craft chocolate, you realize that it's a food. There's a lot of nutrition in high quality dark
exactly.
chocolate. Yeah, yeah. So you can have it all in
And you
chocolate.
don't need a lot of ingredients, to make quite the
Exactly.
opposite,
Yeah. So
so.
right now, tell us a little bit of Cacao Club. What do you offer? What do you do?
So I do the chocolate subscriptions.
Mm,
I do chocolate tastings. I do collaborations with other companies, like bakeries, restaurants, chefs
okay.
that want to improve,
Hmm.
the quality of their ingredients and
Mm,
their desserts and pastries.
right.
I also last year I've developed also a cacao experience for a private jet company, where so they offer their clients an experience in Ecuador where they have
Okay.
the entire experience from the fruit,
Mm,
getting to know where chocolate is coming
well,
from, making chocolate, having a bit of the sensorial part as well, going to the market with a chef, eating, meals all cooked with cacao and chocolate, and, you know, then end up with chocolate
very
tasting.
cool. So that's a experience that you organized yourself, and that's based in Ecuador.
Yes, I organized this experience for this company for their clients, so they can
Oh,
go
very
and
cool.
fly there.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, it's one of their destinations,
yeah.
and to
Amazing.
bring something new in that
Right.
destination.
Wonderful. And for your subscriptions, for your chocolate bars, do you ship just in Portugal? Do you ship in Europe? Where do you ship
Yeah.
to?
I ship all Europe, but mainly Portugal and Spain.
Okay, okay. Wonderful. Excellent. And
Yeah.
if people outside of Portugal, Spain wanted to order from you, is that possible?
Yes, yeah, yeah. I already shipped to Denmark, Ireland,
Okay.
Switzerland. Yeah,
Very
everywhere.
nice. Wonderful. Um, So let's talk a little bit more about, the fact that you're introducing this new type of chocolate to Portuguese people who already love chocolate. So their
Mhm.
question might be, and this is a question a lot of people in the public have, is they're happy
Mhm.
with the chocolate they have. They're happy with their Lindt and whatever chocolate that they have. So why should they consider purchasing chocolate from you? These bars generally are more expensive. So what would you say to them? Why switch to that chocolate.
Because I think it's a totally different experience,
Mm,
it depends. Because when you look at chocolate that you buy in the supermarket, it's like it's a candy, to be honest,
mm.
right? I think it even shouldn't be, called chocolate.
Yeah, it's more like a
It's
chocolate
like
flavored candy in a way.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
sometimes.
So it's like a totally different experience. So if you
Mm,
want to eat something, if normally the clients are more educated, that they like to appreciate good food, good wines, good, beers, coffees, whatever, like I say, it's basically the same thing. You can go to a supermarket and buy a €5 wine, or you can go to a wine shop and buy something a bit more expensive.
mm,
It's more or less, kind of the same experience. So
right.
if you want to try something different and good and real chocolate,
Mm,
like people, they go for it. And they
yeah.
love the experience. I have friends that they try the bean to bar and then they call me saying, "You ruined my life." And I'm sorry. Yeah, I cannot eat my Toblerone or I cannot buy milk any longer. And I'm like, you should thank me,
Yeah, that happens a lot. That happens a lot, and that's a good
Exactly. You
thing.
should
Yeah,
thank me instead, like.
yeah. But no, that's wonderful. I think people they can't comprehend how different craft chocolate can be,
No,
they
exactly.
have to try it, they have to experience it. And it's not for everyone, just like specialty Coffee is not for everybody, but there's a lot of
Exactly.
people that can appreciate it. They definitely can
Yeah.
appreciate it.
But
Yeah.
does that happen the same to you? Like when
Oh
you
yeah. Yeah. Many
it
times.
happens.
A lot of people, it just blows them away, some of the things that they try and they had no idea. They always say the same thing. I had no idea chocolate was like this, you know? So for people like me and people like you know, there's so many people out there that are ready to try it, you know, and we just have to reach
They are.
them, you know.
And
That's
it's
why
beautiful, no? Don't you
it
like it?
is. It
I
is. It's
like
a
to
lot of
be,
fun.
they try and say, wow.
And that's why it's important too that people like us and chocolate makers need to create experiences because it's different if they just buy a chocolate bar on the shelf and bring it home. When they have some
Mm.
guidance of how to appreciate it, that it changes everything for them. I think
It
it's
changes everything,
yeah,
totally.
yeah.
No, no, that's true. Totally.
So let's ask also, when it comes to
Mhm.
chocolate bars, on the chocolate bars, just like wine and coffee, they have suggested flavor notes, right?
Yeah.
How important, and everyone has their own idea, I have my own ideas, but for you, how important are the flavor suggestions on the bars? So do you try and taste what you see on the bar, or do you just
No,
try and articulate what you are experiencing? What do you do?
no, because I think it's very personal. We
Mm,
all have different memories. We all have different experiences, even different cultures. What sometimes something for me remind me something because I experience maybe for you it's different because you tried something on the other side of the ocean a different fruit or
right. Yeah.
I don't know something a different memory that stays in you, right? So I don't like it's good obviously to have a guidance,
Hmm.
and when I look at it I can see, oh, maybe it has acidity or something, to
Right.
me.
Yeah.
But then if I buy and I don't know it, but I normally don't follow those
Mm,
guides, and even because there's so many factors that they can change this experience,
yeah.
and when you're more into, that the sound that you're of the ambience that you are, the colors, the textures of the materials that are surrounding it, and everything changes like
Even the order
perception.
of the tasting. I don't know for you, but for my tastings too, I'll
Mm.
change, you know, if I have a Contu Moropan bar, if I do it
Mm.
first or if I do it last, people's interpretation of the flavor changes a little bit,
It
even
changes
where
a lot. Exactly.
the order, you know,
So
so many factors involved.
yeah, so many factors, I think it's good to have those notes because if I'm buying and I don't know the origin, I don't know the plantation, for me, maybe but I can see, oh, this, it will have some notes that are more acidic or
Right.
more, I don't know, nutty or whatever, and it helps, if I'm choosing something, but in general, no.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. The flavor suggestions definitely should be there
Yeah,
to guide
definitely.
people. You know, some people don't like fruity flavor in their chocolates, so maybe
Exactly.
they don't pick the ones that are fruity. But at the end of the day, it's very subjective, like you said.
It
People have,
is. I
if you
think it
know,
is.
if you never had blueberries in your life, then you're not going to taste blueberries in your
Exactly,
chocolate. You're going to
blueberry.
taste something else, right?
Exactly.
And that's a good way to teach people. A lot of new people who try craft chocolate, they get discouraged because they're like, oh, I don't taste what the bar says. It's like, just
Yeah,
forget that. Just listen to your senses, right? I think that's
exactly.
very important.
Listen, and for example, I know that you interviewed Hazel as well, and I think it's great, because sometimes people, especially in the beginning,
Yeah.
when they don't know how to put words, on the flavors, but like colors can be a
Color,
great help, memories. There's so many things that, that
sounds. Yeah. What does the chocolate sound like to you? You know, everyone has,
exactly.
and yeah, what Hazel does is really, really wonderful. It's a
It
beautiful
is.
flavor map and it gets people thinking more deeply about the
It
chocolate.
does,
Um,
definitely.
so when it comes to, because you sell chocolate as well, and a lot of
Mhm.
people are not aware how they're supposed to store chocolate. And, um,
Mhm.
you know, people say different things. Some people say never put it in the fridge. I would say put it in the fridge if it's very hot, you know, but you have to package it well. So, how do you recommend people store their nice craft chocolate bars after they open it? What's the best way?
I always say, after they open to try to put it like in a box or something to put it out of like the light, no
Mm,
contact so very light in
Sunlight,
a
yeah.
place where you don't have, big temperature differences,
Changes, yeah.
changes, so you can avoid blooming your chocolate. Obviously it depends because here in Portugal in the summer can get really, really hot,
Right.
so
Yeah.
if they have a, a wine place, perfect. If not, you can always put it in the fridge, but be careful not to put on the door, and always really sealed in a box because of the flavors and
Right.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
But normally, just put in a cupboard, far from other smells, odors, and lights.
Yeah.
No?
Cool area, dark area,
Exactly.
no
Cool area,
odors.
dark.
And
Yeah,
keep it in the packaging nice and tight, like no air inside. I think
exactly.
that really
No
helps
air.
as well. But yeah, in the
Yeah.
summer, like you said, in Portugal, if it's above 25 degrees
Yeah.
Celsius,
Really.
it's gonna bloom, it's
After,
gonna melt, right? So you do have to put it in the fridge as long as it's again airtight and let it acclimate before you open it. Let it acclimate to room
yeah,
temperature.
definitely.
Yeah, yeah. Do you find that, I also find that when you open a chocolate bar, you should maybe eat it within 6 months or so to get the best
Oh, definitely.
flavor. Do you find the same?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Even
To
if
get
it's well stored, it's better.
over time, a year, 2 years, the flavor starts to change a little bit,
Change
mute.
a little bit.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if it's well stored, sometimes you can.
And it depends too, if it's a single origin, it's more sensitive. But if it's a flavored bar with actual spices, ingredients, those can last a long time. The flavors stay quite strong. Yeah,
Yeah. Unless if it's a milk bar, then you have to be careful.
yeah, yeah. Those can go a bit sooner.
Yeah.
Um, what would you say then, with your experience now with people in Portugal? What is the general view of chocolate by the Portuguese? What kind of chocolates do they like? What do they go for? What do they enjoy the most? And what is their reaction to local Portuguese chocolate makers? Do they get excited about that, or do they still prefer maybe Swiss chocolate or Belgian chocolate?
But I think that is changing, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
We're making, we're trying. No, obviously, like people, they're still very much into like commercial chocolate. Actually, my clients mainly they're internationals. They
Mm,
already about the concept. They arrive in Portugal and they don't have much choice, you
mm,
know. But the Portuguese themselves, they're changing,
mm,
and I think one of the main reasons, obviously, people they're looking for something different. People they are more aware.
mm,
They like to eat, you know. And I think, all this movement of like sourdough bakers, the specialty coffee, it's helping us as
yeah,
well
yeah, yeah.
to understand the concept and to accept it. And
So
obviously, when you're looking for a sourdough, bread baker, it's local. The coffee roasters, they're normally local as well. So obviously they will prefer like a local chocolate
that's
as well.
nice. That's good
And
to hear.
because they can have the experience of getting into the place,
Yeah,
smelling,
yeah.
understanding how the process is done. So yeah.
What do you notice any demographics? Age, is it more older people? Are there young people getting interested in craft chocolate? What would you say?
I think it's still a bit like the older people,
Mm.
but then you can see as well a trend, for example, now, even with the hot chocolate, for example, the Glad sisters, you've met them in Porto,
Yes.
no?
Yeah.
Yeah. They opened a new space, and they're introducing new products. And I think there is this young generation, that they're also looking for the experiences.
Mm.
And and I think, it's been a great um, acceptance of that, the
Yeah.
younger
Yeah.
generation
You
under
can see
20,
that
really has
glad, glad, yeah, glad they seem to cater more to a younger audience with their style and their
yeah.
approach. And it's a really nice little place. I'm glad I was able to see it.
Yeah, you were
Good look,
there.
good location too. Yeah, I hope they do
Yeah,
well.
it's great. Yeah,
Really
definitely.
nice. And do you notice, do Portuguese tend to like the sweeter one more? Are they more milk chocolate or the dark chocolate? Because I know Portuguese, they have a big sweet tooth, right? A lot
Yeah.
of sweets.
Eggs,
Eggs.
eggs, you know,
I love those sweet
sugar.
eggs. Yeah, yeah.
It's
But
amazing. We're very creative, I have to tell you. Because, we have, I don't know how many recipes of sweets with just three ingredients, which is
yeah,
eggs,
egg
sugar,
yolk.
but
Yeah.
we did in all these, all different, it's very creative. So I'm looking forward to having the same in chocolate.
Yeah,
More.
that's another good thing about the Bean to Bar craft chocolate movement is now that you have all these small craft makers all over the world, everyone is being inventive. They're doing something different that we never thought of. So that's really exciting. I like that
It
idea.
is, and you've tried the fritturia pastel de nata.
Yeah, yeah, that's a
You've
nice one
tried,
too.
no? So
I
they
love it.
got
So,
now.
what do you like more, pastel de nata original or with the cinnamon? Which one is better?
Hmm. Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, because I didn't know about the
And very
cinnamon.
much. You like the cinnamon?
I love the cinnamon. Yeah, I like
You
that
like
one.
the cinnamon.
Yeah.
I like just a bit pinch,
Yeah.
like
Another question I have is, you know, like like myself, you're always trying new makers, new craft chocolate bean to bar makers. Do you ever come across, honestly, some that you're like, I don't like the way they do it.
I do.
Yeah,
Of
and
course.
what is your view? Do you still want to support these makers, or how do you
No, I
approach that?
do.
Mm.
I do, as long as they go along with the values of Bean to Bar and what I consider Bean to Bar, because there are tastes for everything, and maybe I don't like it, but there are other people that are gonna like
Yeah,
it. For
I think,
example, I like two ingredient chocolate, and if if it's more buttery, it's not my type. But I know
mm,
that there are a lot of clients that love it.
mm.
So I have to give them a chance of trying because we are all different and different tastes.
Yeah.
So as long as they have the values of the bean to bar, of course.
So that's a good point too. There's makers too that I think they're doing a good job, good ingredients. I personally just don't like their style. Just like there's some bakeries you don't like, they're just not your style. But what would you say are the values you talk about? What are those values you look for in a bean to bar
So
maker?
I always look, for me, first, okay, it's obvious is the flavor, if it's good or not. But
Has
now
to be.
I always look for chocolates with two, three ingredients max. For me, it's very important, like traceability, transparency, quality in everything, and the story that they tell me about.
Mm.
I always love a good story. I love to know about the origin, what's the relationship between the maker and the origin. I love the stories of the makers because they're always amazing stories. Everyone always, had a background or a past life, and I love everything about it. So,
Yeah.
and it's very interesting because at the end you see that the chocolate is a mirror of the maker, and I think it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And I like that too. I like that I don't like chocolate makers that are very invisible. You don't know who they are or their story. I think it's important, especially if we're trying to promote transparency. I think it's a good idea for makers to say, this is who I
Oh,
am, this is
exactly.
what I represent. And that's why I love doing these interviews too, is to learn about the makers, get a chance to talk to them, hear their story. I think that makes the chocolate more precious, a little bit more precious for everybody.
No, totally. And
Um,
even for clients, if they know the
yeah,
story, keeps them closer. Because, sometimes I have makers from Brazil or I don't know, from Denmark or whatever, they're not here to show what they do.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
you have the story to tell them,
Right.
and I think that is very important.
Yeah, I always love to encourage buying locally, like buying in your city, buying in your country, but sometimes it's nice to buy international as well.
Lucky, you live in a big country with a lot of makers. It's easier for you.
But it's good that even if they're far away, that we have technology nowadays that we can still feel connected, through seeing their
That's true.
face and hearing them talk, and it's very important.
Yeah. So thank
Um,
you for these interviews because you help. a
You're
lot.
welcome. Well, you're very nice to talk to, so that's why too.
Oh, thank you.
So you are part of, I believe it's called the Portuguese Chocolate Association or Beta Bar Association. So
Our
tell
associate.
us, what is this association? What's the purpose?
Okay. So basically, we started the association because we felt, that in Portugal, the bean to bar movement or knowledge had to grow. So
Hmm.
we decided, to do like a network of people that were working or interested in basically like promoting and developing the concept in Portugal.
Okay.
And at the same time, there was already a Spanish association that helped us a lot,
Hmm.
so we are very close.
Hmm.
And then it will appear the French.
Hmm.
Now we have the Italian, UK as well. And
Okay.
now we are working all together, and we are starting the European Association.
And so how do chocolate makers benefit from these associations? You guys teach them what exactly? Or
No,
how do
I
you?
think it's going to be great because basically we are trying to build, a common language,
Hmm.
right? Because the makers, that really are being to bar, them because then what happens is that, like you go to a supermarket, for
Right.
example, even this week, Hauman from Spain, he was in Italy and he asked us on the chat, do you know this brand? They claim and they have like here a sign that it says street to bar.
Oh, okay.
And he was asking the Italians, do you know if they really treat to bar? And suddenly I looked and I saw so many ingredients and I said,
Hmm.
too many ingredients to be a treat
Hmm.
to bar, and obviously no one knew the story about this person.
Hmm.
So, you see all these people that they claim, oh, we work with, we are bean to bar, we are
Right.
tree to bar,
Right.
or, brands that, basically they melt chocolate and they do other chocolates
Hmm.
not as good as bean to bar, not with the same quality, and they're more
Hmm.
expensive.
Hmm.
So somehow we are trying to create, a language so everyone can use the same language, the same words,
Hmm.
so when they present their chocolates, to the world and to the consumer, people can understand what they're eating,
Right. Right.
and where does it come from? Because even to educate the consumer, you need to know the words and the
Hmm.
context,
Hmm. Yeah,
what are
that's a tough one too because it's not always black and white and things are
you.
constantly changing, from 10 years ago to today. But it is important that there's a bit more transparency or honesty for the customer to know, what am I buying? Am I buying from a
Exactly.
maker who made it from the cocoa bean, or am I buying chocolatier chocolate bar, right? Like
Exactly,
what?
from a chocolatier,
So
so
to
it's like
clarify.
somehow because they're amazing makers, that they're doing a lot of efforts, they have really good quality chocolate, and when the consumer is going to buy, he needs to know that he's not going to be, to buy something,
Right. Right.
he needs to know that he's paying for, for a good chocolate and no, not for,
Yeah.
for something. You're protecting the consumer somehow,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the maker as well.
That's a big reason why I created the app, the map, the original map, is
Exactly.
because a lot of my tasters would say, well, where do I go now? How do I know when I leave,
Exactly.
where to buy them? And the app is a good way to kind of collect these makers too. But at the same time, not everyone knows about the app. So if they're in the grocery store and they see all these bars, they need to know how to differentiate
Exactly.
between them. You were saying too, the tree to bar brand on the website, there was no information about who they are or
No,
anything like that. Hmm.
no,
Hmm.
no, there's nothing. So it's good to know,
Yeah, that's
So,
suspicious.
so we decided, let's get together,
Right.
and try, especially like obviously all over the world, but here in Europe, you have a really strong industry, in Belgium, France, in
Hmm.
Switzerland, and I think it's important to have, a saying of what Pinto Bar is,
Yeah.
and for people to understand that there is a difference,
Okay.
in everything, because that is going to help everyone from the origin,
Hmm.
because of these laws of deforestation and the certifications
Mm,
and everything, like if you start having a voice, and explaining, the process, it's going to be easier for everyone,
right. Yeah.
like.
And so generally now in regards to all the work you do, with your business and the association, whatnot, what would you say is your most favorite aspect of what you do today? What do you like the most? What's the
Oh, I
most
like
fun?
everything.
You can't choose. Is there anything that you don't like that's like, it's too much?
But I don't like, no. I'm so lucky. I think you as well. I think we're lucky because we're passionate about what you do, like,
True. But
and
I don't like retail. I find retail kind of tedious.
yeah, me too. I don't like to. Yeah,
Not my
that's true.
thing.
No, I love to meet new people.
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
to meet the makers. I love to eat good chocolates.
yeah, yeah.
I love to travel. So in chocolate, you do all this. So it's
Wonderful.
perfect.
Yeah, yeah. Do you see any areas in the bean to bar realm that needs improvement? Things that people within the industry maybe you'd like to see more of, or things like that. Have you thought
No,
about that?
definitely. I even
Yeah.
wrote a post about that once because, once I went to Selfridges, I don't know if you know it, it's like a department store, a luxury department store in London.
Okay.
Now they have this food hall, like they have a chocolate hall. And
Mm,
you go there and you have all these amazing corners, Godiva, Newhouse,
mm, mm,
all these expensive brands, with beautiful packagings and everything. And then you have like a column, and all the four faces of the column have been to bar chocolate. But
mm,
that's it.
mm.
And when I went there, I was like, there is something wrong
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Because for me, luxury,
It's quality. Luxury should be quality, right?
exactly,
Yeah,
quality, craftsmanship, savoir-faire, everything is in this column. And the rest is just marketing, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
So I thought to myself, what Selfridges needs to know and learn about chocolate? And what do chocolate makers need to understand about, what the products, the quality, and the luxury that they have, and they're not
Mm,
aware,
mm,
you know? So I think the bean to bar makers, they have to think on two things basically. Who are their customers?
mm,
When do they consume their chocolate? Because when I think myself, and I think you as well, when you buy a chocolate bar, when you eat it, do you imagine like an 80% bar? Do you eat the entire bar, or you just eat a
mm.
square and keep it? You
Right.
store it.
Square. Yeah.
So what sort of packaging do you need for that? To
Mm,
make sure the
yeah.
chocolate is still good.
Yeah.
Is it a bar the best, format, or do you should go for a different format?
That's a really good point too. There's a lot of bars out there that one, it's hard to break a little piece, and two, when you want to repackage it and save it for later, some of it's just very awkward and it doesn't make a lot of
Exactly.
sense. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Another thing is like you buy chocolates for yourself, but most of the times you buy
Mm,
chocolate as a gift,
mm,
right? And are you going to gift just, bean to bar it's more expensive. So are you going to give just one bar, two bars? Or is there, I think bean to bar makers they should think more about gifting as well, because people buy chocolates too as a gift,
right.
so I think there are a lot of things that can be improved, but
Mm.
you already see a lot of makers doing that, and I'm so happy for that, but still I think there's
I think
still.
the first point you brought up too is really important in regards to grocery stores or shops who are just so uneducated when it comes to
They
quality
are.
chocolate, right? They still think Godiva Lint is top tier when it's very
Exactly.
middle tier with really good marketing, Are they really interested in top tier chocolate or not?
Mhm.
Because hopefully some of them are and they just don't know yet. They don't realize. But I think it's changing the mindset too of these stores because maybe they're afraid to sell $20 chocolate bars or something like that when
But for example, at Selfridges you find brands like Chanel, that the price is not an
yeah,
issue.
No, exactly,
No, and
exactly.
I was
But
happy to see at least they have a column of bean to bar, but then the bean to bar, makers are the ones that have to adapt to these clients, not to adapt because their clients are, more educated people, people with more money, so they don't care about the price that they were paying as long, as they have a good experience,
yeah, yeah, that's a good
when
point.
they buy the chocolate.
I think probably the wholesale price for that company, for that store, the wholesale price for Lindt and Godiva is so much lower, obviously,
Yeah.
than the bean to bar makers. But then they could probably sell the bean to bar makers for a lot more as well, like
No,
a
definitely
Chanel, that
they
kind of
can.
idea.
Obviously they can.
Um, so there's a lot of work, like you mentioned, a lot of work in changing the mindset of not only the consumer, but even the people that resell all this
It's
chocolate. They have no idea what's in their hands that they're
no,
selling.
no,
Yeah, yeah.
no, definitely not.
Hmm.
So, still-
Yeah. Maybe you need to set up an appointment and go talk to the people who run run it there.
I
Sit
already have
down.
it
Yeah.
on my plate.
Um,
That's why we need to be all together, because all together we can make a difference.
yeah.
That's why, the associations are so important, I think.
Mm. And let's talk a little bit about you had a recent trip to El Salvador. I think I saw some of your posts on Instagram there. So what brought you to El Salvador? What kind of things did you learn? Tell us about this
A lot.
experience.
No, it was an amazing experience. Like my favorite verb is to go. And I knew because I think this was the third expedition organized by Belco to El Salvador.
Mm,
When I heard that there was going to be another one, I said, I'm in. Because I think, it's a great way, when you eat chocolate to know more about the chocolate, to know more about the cacao, to know more about the origin.
yeah.
And I was very interesting and very curious about El Salvador because I don't know, the first part that I tried probably it was a year ago or something. And suddenly, like mushrooms, they start appearing, when I start looking. And I thought it was very interesting because I saw several brands all from El Salvador, but different fincas and
Mhm,
different
mhm.
haciendas.
Yeah.
And when you look at El Salvador in the map, it's like a tiny
Very
country.
small. Yeah. Yeah.
uh, so I was curious, because you see like much bigger countries with different, with just one or two plantations that you're aware of, and you're
Right.
like, what are they doing? So there is something here.
Hmm,
And
hmm.
as they were organizing this trip, I said, I'm curious. I say it's a great way to know and learn because they are the experts.
Yeah.
So let's try and see and find out.
Yeah.
So I went, and it was an amazing experience in all levels. I went with Balco, they are cacao distributors. It was beautiful,
Mm,
like the country is beautiful, and the projects that they're doing there, because some of them, they are there educating, and helping the farmers
mhm.
to to have a better cacao because
Yeah.
they were stronger and they in other crops like sugar or coffee, and now they are changing a little bit for cacao.
Right. And that's a good point too, because a lot of people don't understand, even though a country grows cacao, if they're not fermenting it properly and drying it properly, they can't sell it as a premium cacao. It's not going to have those flavors. So it's important that people who go there and improve what they have already.
No, no, definitely.
Yeah.
And it was super interesting because, we went to the first farm, and they explain you how they're doing the fermentation and the drying, they showed us the plantation, and you think, oh, wow, this is an amazing day, we learned so much. It's impossible to learn more. But then next day you're going to a different plantation and suddenly, like the altitude changes, the temperature is different. So they might have a similar protocol, but then they explain you okay, maybe the turnover on the fermentation is different because the weather conditions are different. The cacao is going to arrive to a different temperature, you know.
Mm, mm,
So I learned so much. It
mm,
was so interesting, you know, it's like, and they're doing an amazing job.
mm,
Yeah,
mm.
definitely.
Yeah, it's interesting that El Salvador, years ago, you never really heard about El Salvador origin
Yeah,
cacao, and now you hear a lot like Vi Cacao in Italy. They use a lot of El Salvadorian
they
cacao,
do.
and they're doing it's wonderful. It's delicious, you know. So
Yeah.
it's nice to see countries being revived, sort of in regards to cacao, like El
No,
Salvador.
definitely.
Yeah,
So no, it was an amazing experience. I
very
totally
nice.
recommend it, you know,
It
and
looks
I was
beautiful. I would
impressed
love
with
to
their,
go sometime.
yeah, I was impressed with their work.
Yeah,
And yeah,
very nice.
so looking forward to it more like.
So is this a trip that other people, if they want to join, they can join another year or something like that?
Yes,
Or oh, okay.
they were
Oh,
mainly makers, and it was another experience, you know, because it's not only the infield, you know, where you see the
mm,
where you are in contact not only with the cacao, with the farmers, you know, and everything, but also with makers that use that cacao.
very
So
nice.
it was amazing, you know, to see both of them talking, you know, and their relationship and talking about, you know, how they see the cacao and how they transformed it, you know, and to see the farmers, you know, trying the chocolate, you know, made out of their
Their
cacao
cacao.
and the packaging and everything involved, you know, the
Very nice.
stories behind. It was incredible, you know, it's like such a deep connection and with everything, you know, cacao, nature, with the makers. You learn so much with all of them. It was amazing.
And if people wanted to join, where can they learn more about future trips?
This was organized by Belco, so it just I think you have to try and talk to them. I know that there are other distributors that they do the same as well, so it's a matter, you know, of trying to talk to them, and
Wonderful.
yeah.
And tell us, before we end off here, do you have any ideas, dreams, for the future, whether it's Cacao Club or what the work that you want to
So
do? Yeah?
many.
Do you want to share some of them?
So many. This is so hard. I always say now I need to focus and get organized because there
Mm,
is so much to be done.
yeah, yeah.
So much, but yeah, we'll see.
Nice.
I'll keep
Amazing.
you posted.
Yeah, keep us all
And
posted.
whenever I need your help, I'll tell you help
Thank
each
you.
other. Or we should do something together because
Yeah,
they're so,
that
you
would be a
know.
lot of fun. Yeah, I like your energy. You're
No,
very
thank you.
happy.
I love your
You're very
work. You
happy.
know.
I'm usually more serious, so it's a good balancing. And if people want to connect with Cacao Club, what's the best way to stay in touch with you?
No, it's through the Instagram websites,
Okay,
you know, I think
wonderful.
so. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, Rosario. It's really nice to
No,
talk to
thank
you.
you. Thank you very much. It was really
And
nice.
I wish you all the best. I'm sure you're going to do a lot of amazing stuff. All
Thank you
right.
so much.
Thank you,
Bye.
Rosario. All the best. Ciao.
Bye.
Download the free Bean to Bar app to connect with makers from around the world, either where you live or places you'll visit. Also, be sure to visit beantobarworld.com for all things fine chocolate, including professional chocolate tastings, chocolate tutoring, online shop filled with bars, tasting tools, and more, the free learning center filled with research, history, science, videos, podcasts, and much more. Sign up for the newsletter to stay in touch, and feel free to donate to grow the free app and free learning center.